Hey guys, welcome back to our channel Accounts Guru Cool. Learn accounting online. So in addition to the IFRS 16 lease video, so we are here with one more video related to that, in which we are going to discuss about what are all the probable questions related to the International Financial Reporting Standard 16's lease interview questions with expected answers for that. So request viewers to watch the video till the end, like the video, share the video, and subscribe our channel to get the more practical knowledge related to accounting and finance. If you want to go for any training related to accounting and finance or software training, or if you need any consultancy related to accounting and finance, and if you are looking for any coaching classes for 11, 12, BCom related to the commerce stream, so you can reach us on our email ID. That's accounts.gurucool@yahoo.com. So the IFRS 16 lease interview questions with expected answers. The first expected questions is that what are International Financial Reporting Standard 16 lease? The expected answer for that is IFRS 16 defines a lease as a contract or part of a contract that conveys the right to use an asset for a period of time in exchange for consideration. In order for such a contract to exist, the user of the asset need to have the right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits from the use of the assets. So related to the IFRS 16 lease, it says that, so whatever the assets we are going to give into the lease, that the rights of use asset for that period and time exchange for consideration. So we have to exchange a right to use for that assets. How do you account for lease under IFRS 16? IFRS 16 takes a totally new approach to accounting for lease called the right of use model. Here, this means that if a company has control over or right to use an asset they are renting, it is classified as a lease for accounting purpose, and under the new rules must be recognized on the company's balance sheet. So as per the International Financial Reporting Standard 16, now as per the new rules and regulations, we have to park that towards the balance sheet and liability of that lease. What does IFRS 16 include? Overview. IFRS 16 specifies how an IFRS reporter will recognize, measure, present, and disclose lease. The standard provides a single lessee accounting model requiring lessees to recognize assets and liabilities for all lease unless the lease term is 12 months or less, or the underlying asset has a low value. Which lease are exempt from IFRS 16? Other types of lease which will be exempt from the application of IFRS 16 are a lease by companies reporting under IFRS for SMEs, which will still apply similar policies as in IAS 16. Lease of non-regenerative resources, for example, for the use of minerals, oil, and natural gas. What are the benefits of International Financial Reporting Standard 16? IFRS will increase visibility of companies' lease commitments and better reflect economic reality. This standard will also make it easier for user of financial statement to compare companies that lease their assets with companies that borrow money to buy their assets, creating a more level playing field. What are IFRS 16 adjustments? IFRS 16 changes significantly how a company accounts for lease that were off balance sheet, applying International Accounting Standard 17 other than short-term lease. Lease of 12 months or less and lease of low value assets such as personal computers and office furniture. How does IFRS 16 affect financial statements? IFRS 16 results in an increase in assets, liabilities, and net debt where leases are brought onto the balance sheet and can also affect key accounting and financial ratio, impacting a company's attractiveness to investor and its ability to raise finance. How do you record a lease in accounting? Once we have gathered our information, that is, we know the lease term, the lease payment, and the discount rate, we simply discount the liability or the lease term. Using the discount rate, we then record the lease liability or the resulting amount on the balance sheet. Which type of lease must be capitalized? A lessee must capitalize leased asset if the lease contract entered into satisfies at least one of the 4 criteria published by the Financial Accounting Standards Board. An operating lease expense the lease payments immediately, but a capitalized lease delays recognition of the expense. How do you treat a lease in accounting? The lessee reports the lease as both an asset and liability of the balance sheet due to their stake as potential owner of the asset and their required payment. They also report individual lease payment as expenses on the income and cash flow statements. How do you calculate ROU, right of use asset and lease liability? Step 1. Work out future lease payment, determine the discount rate and calculate the lease liability, calculate the right of use asset value, calculate the unwinding of the lease liability, calculate the right of use asset amortizations rate. So you have to follow these 5 steps to calculate ROU asset and lease liability. Does IFRS 16 distinguish between operating and finance lease? Under IFRS 16, lessees will no longer distinguish between finance lease and contracts on balance sheet and operating lease contracts off balance sheet, but they are required to recognize a right of use asset and a corresponding lease liability for almost all lease contracts. Do you include lease liability debt? The lease liability will be included in net debt, included in the net debt calculations, but the ROU asset will be excluded. This could affect debt equity ratios, think capitalization and debt convenience. Do lease go on the balance sheet? Adoption of the IFRS 16 accounting standard for lease is starting to impact balance sheets for companies that choose to lease rather than buy assets. As a result, almost all lease are on the balance sheet. What is the journal entry for lease? The company can make the finance lease journal entry by debiting the lease asset account and crediting the lease liability account. In this journal entry, the amount of lease asset or lease liability recorded is the fair value of the total lease payments. So that's the 15 questions related to the IFRS 16 lease. IFRS 16 lease interview questions with expected answers. Thanks guys for watching the video till the end, and request viewers to like the video, share the video and subscribe our channel to get the more practical knowledge related to accounting and finance. And if you want any kind of training related to accounting and finance or software training, so you can reach us on our email ID, that's accounts.gurukul@yahoo.com. Or if you want any sort of accounting consultancy or any coaching classes related to 11th, 12th or graduations, so you can reach us on our email ID, that's accounts.gurukul@yahoo.com. Thank you.